All right, welcome to lesson 43. We're talking about converting fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions and fractions to percentages and percentages to decimals, and you've done this before. So let's go ahead and review it and be ready to ask questions if it's not clear. All right, we're just going to jump into this. We're not going to hit it too heavy because it is a review concept, but we're going to try and cover all the parts that you need to be successful. Okay, to convert a decimal to fractions, we need to understand that all decimals are related by their place values. And so our place values give us a starting location. Right? We call this tenths for a reason because it's a tenth, right? This is hundredths for a reason because it's a hundredth. Right? So in this case, if I have 35 hundredths, I'm just going to write that 35 hundredths. And suddenly I have a fraction that I can work with. From here, I'm going to use my steps to reduce that fraction as necessary. And so in this case, we have 35 divided by 100. We can reduce both of these by 5 real fast. That's my first thought. Gives me to a 7 and to a 20. And in the end, I'm done. Right? Now from here we can move on and look at our second example. Our second example has a whole number to begin with. So our whole number is just going to jump out there. It means we're working with a mixed number. And once again, we look at this idea as, right, kind of our place values. Tenths, hundredths, so that's 45 hundredths. Right? And we can work with it in that sense. Right? Now, I'm going to pause there. What if we had a problem that looked like this, right? That would be tenths, hundredths, thousands. So we'd put 312 over 1,000, right? And then we would solve. So our place values really become important. It's not just working with a base of 100 every single time, right? I'm counting my place values, and my place value gives me the power of 10 that I want to put underneath. All right, jumping back in then, all right, 45 hundredths we can reduce. I'm going to go ahead and reduce by 5 again. Right, we already know that 100 divided by 5 is 20, 45 divided by 5 is 9, and suddenly we're left with a nice answer. And so we have that idea. Next, let's convert some of these to decimals. All right, well, this is basically just working the opposite direction, right? And when working in the opposite direction, we can do a number of different things. One thing we can do is get our denominator to be a base 100, right? Or a power of 10 of some kind, because then it's going to very easily convert to a decimal that works, right? So 23 hundredths, right? I can say 23 hundredths, right? Hundredths place value, put the 23 in there, done, all right? How about this next one? By looking at this, I know that it's an improper fraction, so I'm going to have a whole number involved with this when I finally do out my division, right? But I can start to solve this. Now I can do this in one of two different ways. Operation number one would be to get this to a base 100. So that would be multiplied by 25, and then I'd have to multiply the top by 25. And in the end, I'd get an answer of, would that be 175? Like that. And from here, I'm just going to divide, right? Dividing by 100, 175 divided by 100 would say, okay, divide by 100, 1, 2 decimal places, 1 and 75 hundredths, right? Hundredths, working with that. The other process we can do here, if we can't find that base 100, is I can take my numerator and just divide by my denominator. So 7 divided by 4. 4 goes into 7 one time, 4, 3, right, 0 comes down, decimal goes straight up, 30, 4 goes into 30, 7 times, 28, 2, bring down another 0, 4 goes into 25 times. And so we see that process. Finally, we get to our last one, okay? 3, of course, can't go into 100, all right? And so that means you're going to have to do some division, all right? Go ahead, use this as a sample problem and tell me what it is as you work with converting that to a decimal. How about a percentage? What happens when you have a percentage and we want to take this percentage and change it into a decimal? All right. Understanding this idea really has to deal with understanding this concept that each percentage is out of 100%. And suddenly we've already changed it into a fraction. We didn't really cover that yet, but boom, now we have our fraction, right? 125 hundredths, right? And I can throw up those hundredths, right? 100% on each one of these right now and understand that. And now when I convert to decimals, right, 100 divided by 125 is going to be this idea, right? Because of this principle of dividing by 100, we can use the understanding that when we divide by a power of 10, our decimal, right, moves to the left. And so without ever writing 100%, I can sit here and say, okay, if the decimal, right, because it's 50, is right there, if I'm going to divide by 100, I'm going to move it over 2 places. And suddenly I'm left with this idea. And I wouldn't even need the 0. I could just leave it as 5/10, right? Just like that. Same with this idea, which is really becomes a useful technique when you come away with this. We see the decimal there. We're dividing by 100. 1, 2. Put the decimal, fill in our placeholder, and you get your answer. And it's all based off of this idea that we're dividing by 100. And so we have this. Right? This is also important to understand because whenever you start working with your calculator and percentages, right, most calculators don't have a button like this to say, oh, make it 50% and then do your multiplication and stuff like that. Right? You have to be able to convert it to a decimal so you can use it together with your calculator, which understanding this trick of moving the decimal to the left when dividing is going to be important, and understanding that you're going to move it 2 to the left because when converting a percent into a decimal, you're always going to divide by 100. Whew, that was coming at you fast. Boom, here it is. Here is your lesson, right? Lots of review, lots of good hints, lots of familiar ideas. So go ahead and write each of these as a decimal, percentage, and a fraction. And of course, if it's already written as a fraction, such as this one here, you don't have to rewrite it as a fraction, just convert it to a decimal and a percentage. All right, that is the lesson as we look at lesson 43.